Hello there and welcome to this tutorial on how to paint a Darkoath Marauder. And since this Conan-like dudes and dudettes don't wear that much armor, I thought it's a nice way to show a different approach on how to paint skin. Starting with a black primed miniature and a grey zenithal highlight. The paints I use are Hexed Lichen, Bugman's Glow and Elfic Flesh. For the leathery bits I use Darkoath Flesh, Dried Bark and Mournfang Brown, Black Legion and Wolf Grey, also Lead Belcher and Liberator Gold for the metallics. We also need a black and a brown wash. Now on to the crazy part. We paint the whole skin in purple. If you want to stick with the Games Workshop color palette, you can use Phoenician Purple and Wraithbone or Screaming Skull. And when your miniature looks like another child of Thanos, you've done everything right. For the next step, we do a 50-50 mix of Bugman's Glow and Hexed Lichen. We pretty much repeat the process, but we try to avoid the deepest recesses of the muscles. I know this looks a little bit messy, but this is just a guideline for us, so that we know where to place the highlights. And now we take out the smaller brush to paint the rest of the miniature with Bugman's Glow, which is a little bit watered down. We constantly mix a little bit more Elfic Flesh into the Bugman's Glow until we reach the point of where we are happy with the color. For this miniature I have the brightest skin colors in the face and a little bit on the back. And while you see me painting the rest of the skin, I really like to thank you guys for subscribing to this channel. I just saw we nearly hit the 100 subscribers, which is crazy to me. Thanks a lot. But back to the show. As I said in my previous video and maybe every other YouTuber who's painting miniatures, the focus point of a miniature is always the face, so take your time painting it and place the brightest highlights on it. When you're happy with the painted skin tones, paint the boots and the rest of the leather with Dried Bark. I paint the pants or the trousers, depends on where you're from, a different brown, so we have a little bit of variation in this color range. And sticking with the theme of having a little bit of color variation here, I paint the beard in a 50-50 mix of Mornfang brown and dried bark, so that it doesn't just have the same color as the leathers or the pants itself. This really is the beauty of a wet palette, so we can use the same paints we already used, but mix them together in a slightly different tone, so we have a nice color variation that will 100% fit into the range. I paint the loincloth and the rest of the fabric in Darkoath Flash, so I have a nice contrast to the dark brown. I mix in a little bit of dried bark to represent some shadows. Now let's be through the more or less self-explanatory steps. So for the armor and the shield I use Black Legion contrast. And since painting is always a process, I waited a little to see if I wanted to have the height of the boots in a darker or in a brighter tone. Add a little bit of lead belcher here and there for the sword, for the shield and some other metallic bits. And since I wanted them to fit into my other Slaves to Darkness, I used the layer paint Liberator Gold for the golden parts. This is a more or less pale gold, and I really think it fits the cold environment I'm going to place this Darkoath Warrior in. Now I'm going to shade the pants and the rest of the leathers with Vallejo Black, so we bring them a little bit together. A bit of Aggrimed Earth shade onto the Darkoath Flash, And of course I'm going to shade the golds with Iron's Earthshade as well. If you like, you can use a little bit of Darkoath Flash Shade, oh my god, this Games Workshop names, to have a little more reddish tone. This is how your mini should look like right now. And I'm going to paint the rest of the loincloth with Elfic Flash. I use a more or less stippling motion to create the illusion of it being a little bit worn down by time and the fabric is tearing apart. Also it creates the illusion of texture, which I really don't mind on Darkoath Warrior who's dressed in more or less leather armor, so I will use the same technique on all the leathery parts. And by the way, this approach really works well with darker skin tones. You just add some cutted charred flesh in there. And of course, if you want to have a paler skin tone, just add more and more Elfic Flash. Using Mournfang Brown and a little bit of Elfic Flash in there to brighten up the pants again. Again, the same stippling motion on the boots. For the armor, we really just need two paints, a greyish white and a black, and we mix them together. Starting with a dark grey, we work our way up to a little bit brighter grey. Sometime in the near future I will do a tutorial on how I create black armor, going a little bit more in depth and pointing out what to focus on. For now, keep in mind, this is a more or less non-metallic metal approach, so I tried to have the brightest highlights be in a more or less pure white grey. And for the eyes, I just use the wolf grey or Forex white, whatever you want to use, and have some small dots in there. For I didn't know how I wanted to paint these tufts of hair. I waited till the end with them. Then I thought I am going to paint them red, because the miniature until this point looked a little bit too pale in my opinion. I needed a color that sticked out in the end. So it's just purple with a little bit of red blended red in there. So, what do you think about this slightly different approach on how to paint skin and making it really feel like it's in a cold environment? Just let me know. But anyway, I thank you so much for checking out this video, and maybe leave a like or a subscription, and I hope to see you all in the next one.